everyone. My name is Simon Clark, and I am head of CRO at Evolved Search, which is an award-winning digital agency in the UK. And my talk is entitled Pizza Dough Crow. So let's get into it. So in terms of an agenda, we obviously got, the whole point in this talk, which is the pizza and experimentation, and how I kind of feel they're very closely linked. Some experimentation tips from myself. Over my career, I started in design, I moved into development, and then I kind of dropped into CRO. So some tips from that, but mainly from certainly the last kind of 4 years, but also a pretty crazy 8 months in a new role. Then we'll get on to event trackboards, which you probably haven't heard of, so we'll get into that later, and then some final thoughts and takeaways at the end. So let's get cracking. So what is this talk about? So obviously pizza, obviously experimentation, and how those two, for me, when I was thinking about this, are quite closely linked. So the whole pizza thing came from was kind of down to the pandemic, really, and we took the plunge. We bought a pizza oven to make some delicious homemade pizza, essentially. And obviously in this, I want to kind of talk about how I see similarities between, making those homemade pizzas and experimentation. Hopefully you'll kind of agree. So how did I start making pizzas? So obviously took the plunge, bought that pizza oven, which is, I guess, is kind of the first step. And obviously you do that, you think, great, this will be fun. And then you actually think, crap, where do I start, essentially? And, in the note there, it says that kind of echoes my the start to my CRO career as well. So in terms of the pizzas, I really just started to read the instructions. Sounds like an obvious thing to say, but, read the instructions from front to back, get to know that oven, essentially. And then in terms of the actual methods and ways of creating the dough and the sauces and all those other types of things, I generally tended to watch the experts, watched videos of them making it. I obviously had to buy the right tools, and I got a lot of recommendations from friends to do that. The tools to make the dough, to cut, to put the pizza in, to turn the pizza, to get the pizza out, to check the temperature. You can probably tell the list goes on. And then finally, I had to research the ingredients as well. What are the best ingredients? I probably can't just use the bog standard stuff. I might have to get some other stuff here to make this the best it can be. Okay, so how does this relate to CRO? Well, basically this is how I started experimentation, or how I started my kind of CRO career, if you will. We've got to learn a lot. Let's be honest. We're probably constantly learning as well. But very importantly, I think we've got to get the basics right. So the little note there, which is linking more back to the pizza, is if you don't let your dough prove, then it's never going to be the best it can be. And that's the right similar for CRO as well. But we also need to know what the end goal is. So what is the target? What is it that we're striving to achieve? And the little note there just says, don't give your customer a Margherita if actually they wanted the full works, and vice versa. So obviously we start by understanding what our clients want and need. What is it that they want to achieve? What is it that they strive for? And once we understand that, only at that point can, for me, can we then choose the right ingredients, the right processes, the right tools for that very specific job, because very rarely are two clients exactly the same. So we know, what they've chosen off the menu. We kind of know, right, this is what we want, but how do we get there? And on the right hand side, we've obviously got, for the pizza example, a tasty pizza, and for the experimentation example, we've got the money. I know there are other things, but that's generally what we're looking at. And just like in a busy kitchen, it's hot, sweaty, there's a lot of work going on in that middle part to get from, the order or, what's the end goal to then actually getting that. So in terms of the end goal, in the pizza example, it's a pizza, generally what we ordered, a margherita or, a pepperoni or whatever it is. But there's obviously all these things that go before that to actually, to create that pizza. So the instructions are, what I would say is, the experience that gets handed down. So it's things like, how much ingredients do we need? How do we mix that? When do we put them in? How long do we, leave things to prove, etc. The ingredients, so all the ingredients that you need to make the pizza dough, the things that you need to make the tomato sauce, the base, the cheese, and finally, the toppings and things like that. The tools, again, very important. So, we need the tools to mix, we need the tools to prove the dough, we need things to cut them up, we need things to get them in the oven, get them out the oven, to turn them. So lots of things needed there. And then finally the oven as well. So incredibly important again. Pizza ovens have to be, an extremely high temperature. And that's, I guess, where the money goes into in terms of that final step. And that, in the pizza example, is how we get that pizza. In terms of experimentation, so on the flip side, the first step is the people and the knowledge. So that's the expertise that we've done this before. We have a feeling that we know what we need to do here, what we need to do here, how long it will take, what could go wrong, how we want this to go to get to that end goal for that specific client. The ingredients in this case are the kind of experimentation methods and processes. So which ones are we going to choose here, to get us to that end goal? Again, sales leads very different. There'll be different clients who have different customer bases. So there's lots of different things we can do there. The CRO tools. So again, very important. So how are we going to, look at the analytics? How are we going to look at sessions or heat maps? And how are we going to do things like A/B testing? So again, very, very important. And then the final step is, the website, the app. That's, the thing that's going to get us to that point of those sales and leads. So that kind of is the final step, I would say, in terms of us getting that end goal. So how to create the best experimentation program or project or whatever it is. So I really think these early steps are crucial. So the people, the knowledge, and the methods and the processes. So for me, these are the kind of things that I've been learning over time. So I definitely think if you can build a team of absolute specialists in their field, you're always going to get one step ahead. Now I know that's hard with recruitment and things like that, but if you've got specialists who live and breathe their specialism, it's just going to make it much easier to get to that end goal, and it'll make it more fun as well, let's be honest. Constantly learn from others. I know this sounds obvious, but I think sometimes we look to, I don't know, videos online or, blog articles or whatever it is, but, just listening to people on whatever social platform, I won't get into that, but, and reaching out to them, ask them how they learned what they know. And that leads on to, don't be afraid to ask questions of people in the experimentation community as well. There will always be someone who has been there and done that, who's, had the issue that you've had or broken through that barrier. So again, just don't be afraid to ask questions. Nobody knows everything, so, don't underestimate yourself. Don't get yourself down if you're stuck, because, you will get through that. Through your own experimentation and your own learnings, and just working with different clients and getting through it like that. And finally, use somewhere like LinkedIn, again, not exclusively that, but, as a place to follow experts. Again, that sounds obvious, but that's how I've learned so much. Ask questions, pick up tips. Are there any arising themes that are coming up, and really learn from them? And I don't think I've got it on there, but podcasts as well. I've learned so many different things just from listening to podcasts, and you get to know people who are real experts because you listen to them for 30, 40, 50 minutes. In terms of methods and processes, so absorb as much as you can from your peers, from different teams in your company, and from the client as well. That's a really good way to learn, as well as expert websites such as a couple of examples there, CXL or Copy Hackers and things like that. I think crucial is to produce your own process that suits your team. So one framework and process that works in, say, a big team might not apply to a smaller team, and vice versa. So I think that's really, really important. Create an experimentation framework that can be used across all your clients. So for me, that's your base, conversion research, and online testing, and then innovate on top of that. And that's going to, you've got that base, and then you can innovate and do other things that really make your company and your framework, really unique. And linked to that, adapt and innovate. So if you find something more efficient or more creative, working in a team, let's look at that. And then finally, automate. So I've listened to many podcasts and read many things on this, and it's so crucial. So anything that's taken time over and over, if you're doing a task over and over, we need to automate that. And the reason for that is so you can spend more time being more creative, you can spend more time talking to your client, collaborating with your client, having workshops, and the automation side of it is just sitting there doing its job. And that leads me on to event trackboards. So this is something that I've been using for a while now. It's not a new thing, I don't think, but it's maybe a new way of doing it. So an event trackboard is basically a dashboard or a place to track page performance, and we do that on a monthly basis and by device. So essentially, we're looking at tracking the key elements on your key page templates around the website. So that's places such as the home page, the PLP, the product page, the checkout funnel. And it's really great place just to be able to go in and figure something out or check something, find out what's working, what's not, see if there's any themes coming up. They're really, really great. And this is kind of almost how I use them myself on a day-to-day basis. So there's one which is a bit of a full circle. So the first one is You could create a customer survey to understand what information is missing. What information is most important on a page. Then what you could do is, based on the results of that, use an event trackboard to make sure this information is A, on the page. Is that information that 80% of people said they want, is that on the page? And B, is it accessible? So is that information behind an accordion? Is it behind a tab? That you could be missing out on 90% of people viewing that important information that they've said is important. So that's really, really good. You can also share this dashboard with designers and developers in the client's team. The designers can use this for design decisions going forward. They might be thinking of revamping the product page. They come to the trackboard. What is crucial? What can't we? What do we need to leave on the page, and what can't we take off? And what can we take off? And the developers can use it in terms of investigating drop-offs and specific form errors and things like that. What's also good is to add notes to your trackboard, so you can understand when web releases and new features get released to the site, and you can then check whether that had a positive or a negative effect, and that, again, that's really crucial. And finally, just see the actual page performance. You can have your you can link it to revenue, bounce rate, exit rate, page value, etc. There's loads of things you can include in there to give you almost like a well-rounded view of your key page templates. You can create performance trackboards, which basically just does what it says on the tin, tracks the performance of the overall site, and it allows you to drill down to specific elements as well. So in the survey example, that could have been, there's some information that is really crucial, but it's behind an accordion. How many people are actually clicking that accordion is going to relate to how many people actually see that information, and form fields, etc. So just some final thoughts, and then that's it from me. So I think simplicity is crucial. Simplicity when making a pizza. Think of the pizza dough. It's flour, yeast, salt and water, and that is it. And I think simplicity in experimentation is key as well. What does your client want? What's that end goal? You need a plan on how to do that. You need the tools to achieve that, the right tools, and then you need the measurement so that that is working, and that links into communication with the client as well. In terms of the pizza example, there's a technique to cold prove your pizza dough, and essentially that just allows the yeast to work longer on the sugars in the flour, and that helps it develop a much deeper flavour. So using that technique on your clients, allow us to cold prove your website, and it will perform much better, but it might take longer. And finally, set expectations. Again, I think this is said a lot in the experimentation community, but set expectations early on, and communicate as much as you can. Generally, we'll use the first month to kind of onboard the client, ask them questions, perform that crucial kind of conversion research. If the client's picky, we'll maybe do some quick, low-hanging fruit tests, A/B tests, just to get the ball rolling and let them know what we're about. And then finally, communicate. So I'm a big believer in communication with clients. Communicate test plans, test results, test dashboards, customer surveys and survey results docs, usability testing reports, and the experimentation roadmaps. We want to keep them in the loop as much as possible, so they can see the value in the teams who are working on it. And that is everything. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to speak to you soon.